Good morning. Welcome to the first Coffee and UX with me, with Jen. I wanted to start this series to a couple of reasons, but one is to hold myself accountable. It's 8 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. And I'm going to turn this background thing off here. Much better. Yeah, it's 8 a.m. and I am not a morning person. It's one of the reasons I love working from Hawaii. I get up really early in Hawaii. I start my day really early, but then my work day is done by like noon or 2 p.m., which is really lovely. And I would love to have that lifestyle here, but 8 a.m. is really early for me. So I figured even if I do this once a week, it'll be once a week that I'm up, I am ready to jam. The other thing is I get really energized when I talk to other UXers. And I mean, when I talk to people in general, but especially UXers, just about what's going on, what we're working on, what people are into, what people are concerned about. It energizes me. And I've noticed a difference, working from home. Many of us are working from home these days. I'm by myself. I mean, I have my partner, I have my dog, but work wise, I'm by myself. And um, yeah, if you start the day not feeling so great, that can persist. And I find that when I have conversations with folks, it really does energize me. So that's another reason that I'm hoping this will provide this purpose. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Welcome to Coffee and UX. Do you have your coffee? This is a fun coffee mug from this is from my Facebook days, Women in Tech. And I love this mug. I love the gray. It's so boring, right? But I love the gray. And there were a series of these. It's like all the admins got on this train of these exact mugs. So they stack. My other ones are in storage right now, but that was cool too, because they stack nicely in the cupboard. Anyway, um, 15 minutes, Tuesday morning. Wasn't sure what we should talk about. Feel free to throw some questions in the Q&A. I wasn't sure about the format. This is the first time I'm doing this, and I'm noticing different things on LinkedIn, different ways people are doing this with these streaming platforms, which is kind of what I'm doing using the Zoom webinar. It's more like streaming as opposed to a room, where we're all in the room. But I'm open to feedback. Maybe it'd be fun to have, an open conversation where we all hang out together. So let me know what you all think. All right, here's what I want to talk about today. Corey Lebson posted. So if y'all don't know Corey, I've worked with Corey for many years. He was actually quite instrumental in my consulting part of my career. I met Corey when I think I was still in grad school, to be honest. I was at the US Census Bureau doing an internship. And we met at a conference I think we were in Portland, Oregon, somewhere out there. And he had recently started freelancing, and I was very interested in that because I was just coming out of academia, and I was very interested in the intersection of rigorous research, really, really good, sound research, and business. And at that time in my life, I had yet to see that. I had seen academia, and I was very interested in academia because of that rigorous research. But I had yet to find a business that was doing a similar thing. Now, obviously, I'm in the field and I know that this is a thing. But at the time, I met Corey, and we were out west. We came back, and we were both living in the DC area at the time. And so we came back, and when I met him at the conference, we were talking about consulting and what that was like and everything. And then ended up back in DC, and he said, I have a project that you might be interested in and I could use your help on. So that started my path into UX as a business, research, I should say research as a business, because like I said, up until that point, I had really thought about rigorous research being more academic. he and I ended up working on these FEMA projects all over the country. We were going around conducting UX research. It was so impactful, influential, emotional. We were helping people. We were figuring out how to make FEMA better for people who had been in crises and were applying for assistance. And you can imagine, people are super stressed out when they've had a flood and have lost everything. And now they have to go and apply for assistance on FEMA. And it wasn't the most usable website and product. So we did a series of research studies all over the country. And then one thing just led to another. So since then, that was many, many years ago. Since then, Corey and I have been in each other's lives. He's hired me. I've hired him. We work together. We collaborate. I have a segment in his book on UX careers. We teach courses together. Like, we've done a lot together. We've talked about writing another book together, a revised book of everyday things, which I think would be so fun. I don't know if you are familiar with the first book, but it's really influential and seminal in our field. And it's like, once you start learning UX, you realize all these things in your everyday life that are just not usable or not made for the user. And some of my favorites, or I guess, biggest culprits, are like doors that have handles and they look like you need to pull, but you actually need to pull. Like, those are so obnoxious. But anyway, he and I were talking about all these things in our everyday lives that, we need a book and like make a new fun version of the book of everyday things. Don't steal my idea. If you're interested in collaborating, reach out, come work with Corey and me. Anyway, I digress. Okay. So he posted 3 days ago. Oh, I wanted to say, so he and I recently we have started this new series where we're doing panel discussions about the current state of UX. And we did one in DC last month. You might have seen my post about that. I shared what we discussed, what the panelists discussed. We organized another one in Denver, Colorado last week, which unfortunately I didn't go to because I had a skiing accident. But he still went, and our other two panelists, John and Jackson, were there. And he said that Corey shared that the sentiment there was a little bit different than DC. DC seemed to be a little bit more positive. So I'm bummed I missed that, but we plan on doing these panel discussions more around the country, around the world, wherever, because I think it'll be really interesting to see different perspectives and hear what's going on, especially in the areas with UX communities, but not just those places. So if that's something you want to collaborate on too, reach out, let me know. If you have space that you can host us in, like an office space, that would be awesome. Okay, so Corey's post 3 days ago, he said, I feel uncertain right now. This year so far, and really since late 2023, I've been about 25% billable with UX research consulting work. So 25% billable isn't that much. When you think about your time, whether you're a consultant or whether you're working full-time, like full-time is 40 hours a week. So 25% billable, if you're working full-time, is 25% of that. So it's low. It's low if you want it to be more, I should say, because one of the perks of consulting is you get to decide how much you work. So if you only want to work that much, then that's great, but sounds like he wants to work more. So he says, at first, though, even with so many disheartening layoffs that impacted UX professionals, I didn't realize quite how many other consultants, inclusive of project-based freelancers and small design agencies, have also been equally impacted. You don't see it in the news or posted on LinkedIn all that much, but collectively, there seem to be many of us in these parts of the UX consulting realm that are hurting for work. In fact, this is the first time I can recall when the US economic numbers have remained strong, but both project-based UX consulting and full-time UX jobs have paralleled each other in what feels like a large dip. And I agree with that. That is an interesting thing. I was at Google when we had the first round of layoffs about a year ago now. And that was like, I think Facebook had started and then a bunch of the companies followed suit. And that was a blow. And my prediction at that time was there's going to be a lot of layoffs, but these companies are going to lean on consultants to fill the gaps because there's still a lot of work to do, right? UX is not going away. It's still a thing. And so that was my thought at the time. And I'm still hopeful of that. And I'm also still hopeful that the UX research roles will pick up again as these companies, they're shrinking their belts and doing more with less, and people are expected to do more with less. In your role, like a qual researcher might now be expected to do surveys, or a designer might be expected to do some UX research. So, there's going to be, we're seeing that already. There's going to be more of that. But as these teams have reorged and there's been a flattening of the UX research teams, I think that will bounce back internally. So there's a number of things. One, I think that will bounce back internally because we still need UX research. Research isn't going anywhere. But also in terms of consultants, as these teams are tightening their belts and saving money, then they're going to realize they need more research. And then that's going to open up again opportunities for consultants. That's my opinion. Let's see what others have to say. So some folks comment on this. Al McFarland, who I don't know, I would like to know. He had an interesting perspective. So he says, Corey, sorry to say, but the golden age of user research has ended, in no small part on our own doing. When UXR decided to become a thing on its own and desire to be a specialty, we boxed ourselves in. Regardless of roles and solutioning, contributions needed to have a tactical impact. UXR defining their own deliverables and expecting companies to drink the Kool-Aid was only going to work as long as there was belief in it. In many cases, UXR hasn't delivered on what the business effort needed, and now we're questioned in terms of the bottom line and losing our seat at the table again. I do agree with that. More on that in a second. There's a simple solution to the issue. Let's generalize a bit in solution development as professionals so we can know and contribute directly to the solution. Whether it's talking the talk of solution architecture, understanding developer mental models and outputs, and most important, champion and apply the knowledge of human perception, processing, and human factors. Time to return to the generalist model for our own profession, for our own good and survival in the work market. That part I agree with less. There are other comments too. I encourage you to read it. Let me see, one other one that I thought was really good. Kevin McDermott, he says, he was replying to Beth, I may be missing the mark, but I've noticed quite a few instances where UXR, individuals, as opposed to a larger functional offering, can miss the mark on serving our real purpose. I've seen instances where the idea of delivering the best or most pure UXR supersedes business objective or even user objective. Now, I can tell you, and I just started this off by talking about how, Corey and I met and I was more academically oriented. And, I believe in true research, real rigorous research. I can tell you that I agree with what Kevin is saying. So what I have seen happen with UX research is, as a field, we have gotten, I hate to say really confident because we should be, but to the point of and I'll use we very broadly, we have decided that what the business objectives should be, for example, as opposed to aligning to business objectives. So one thing to remember is no matter where you work, no matter who you work for, we are working for a business. So it's really important for our roles to be aligned with business objectives. And as UX researchers, it's our job to make sure our work is aligned to business objectives. You can imagine anybody in any sort of company who's doing stuff, the guy who's shoveling the snow, if he's not shoveling it correctly so people can make their way into the building, he's not going to have a job. So if we don't align our work to business objectives, then our not even our field. I mean, I think it's happening at a field level, but our jobs, individually are at risk. So keep that in mind as we are seeing all these job postings, all these job openings. I do believe there will be a shift in our field. And, we are seeing all those companies that laid people off are hiring as well. But just keep that in mind that our work needs to be attached to business goals. And it's part of our job to understand what those business goals are, what those objectives, what those OKRs, however it is the company discusses and defines these. It's our job to know what those are so that we can make sure our job is relevant. So 15 minutes goes fast. Hope you all have a wonderful day. I will be doing this again and hope to see you again. Please, please, please send me some feedback. You can find me on LinkedIn. at Jennifer Romano or at UXR Coach. See ya.